I've made so many potential YouTube videos and I always edit them and then delete them. If you came to this video, you probably are just now finding out what a rising sign is, so I will be telling you about that. We have several signs in our birth chart. We have a full birth chart. Your zodiac sign that you know of is your sun sign. So it's the sign the sun was in when you were born. The sun stays in each sign for like a month-ish. It's not like a month and a half. It was probably just like over by a few days. But yeah, you also have a moon sign. The moon takes a month to get back to the sign it was just in. I'd like to say it stays in each sign for 2 to 3 days. You have a Mercury sign, you have a Mars sign, you have a sign for every planet, and you have 12 houses in your birth chart, and there's a sign on the cusp of each house, and there's a planet in each house. But we will be talking about sign cusps today. I might split this into a 2-part video so I can kind of go over some other sign cusps, or after I finish all the houses, I might just go back and do the signs on the cusp of the houses besides the rising. The sign on the cusp of your first house is your rising sign. There's a lot of debate about sun sign cusps, so don't even mention it, honestly. Yeah, but when I refer to the sign on the cusp of a house, I'm not saying that you're in between 2 signs. I'm saying that's the sign on top of the line of the house. So you should start off with a wheel chart because you often get more detail. I recommend astro.com for making your chart. You have to have your exact birth time, your birthplace, and then your birthday to find out your houses. If your birth time is even off by like an hour, it messes everything up. My birth time was off by like 14 minutes, and it changed my Pluto from being in the 12th to being in the 11th. So very different. So yeah, if you don't have your birth time, don't even bother. If you're like, you think it's between like 20 minutes, it should be fine. Like you have a 20-minute rough guesstimate, it should be fine. But if you're like, I don't even know if I was born in the daytime or at nighttime, don't even bother with the houses like at all, because there's like a 1 in 12 chance that'll be right, technically-ish. So yeah, don't even bother. But you can still look up your planets and the signs. If something is around 0 degrees, for example, if you have something at exactly 0 degrees, you might not want to be too confident about that placement because it could have been in the previous sign that day, and you could have actually been born when it was in the previous time. So yeah, I'm thinking of anything else I should cover. Okay, get the wheel chart, find the first house, which it's often labeled, sometimes it'll say ASC because the rising sign is also called the ascendant sign. This isn't going to be explaining like how these signs work. It's just going to be explaining how to find them and what it means about you. So yeah. But yeah, because this, I don't know. Anyways, find the first house. It could have a 1 in the house. It usually has it could have ASC over it, but the line on the left starts the house. The houses will look like this. As you can see, the top line starts the house. So find the line that's the ascendant. Find the sign that's over that line, the sign that is on top of that line. If another sign is in the house, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're like, for example, a Cancer Leo rising. You're just a Cancer rising, because it has to be on the line where the house starts for it to be counted as being on the cusp of that house. So yeah, find that, find the sign, the symbol that's on top of that. Sorry for the bad lighting, but basically I'm trying to explain this as thoroughly as possible. So Capricorn is my rising, that's my chart, because you can see that the Capricorn symbol, that's the Capricorn symbol, is on the line of the house that has a 1 in it. It says AC and then directly connects to the Capricorn symbol. So I'm a Capricorn rising. I'll try to put somewhere what each of the symbols mean, but you can also Google it. But yeah, find that, and then that's your rising sign. So I feel like that was explained pretty well. So sorry if you're still very confused. Yeah, so that's your rising sign, and the first house is about your view on life. It's who you are deep down. It's your first instinct. And this is all a result of how your birth was, because that energy kind of follows you throughout your life in astrology. So for example, for a I don't know, Capricorn rising, that's what I am. The birth is often slow. Something about it is slow. And because of that, they have hesitant energy in life. It could have also been like traumatic in some way for the baby, or just cause fear for the baby. And so they have a fearful view on life. So yeah, everything is a result of the birth. It's also about appearance. I wouldn't say it's like too much about appearance. It's more about, focuses more on the personality, your outlook on life when it does appearance, and your birth. Like, it causes everything, but it's not going to go into detail about your birth or anything. Yeah, I think, oh, it also can cover the childhood, like the early childhood, and I believe the teen years. It can show information about all of those. It shows how you come off to strangers, like at first glance, or at first like small talk or small conversation. Who are you? Like, what impression are they getting from you? So that's what that covers. That's all that covers. I'm gonna check my notebook to see if I missed anything, but I'm pretty sure that's everything it covers. It's falling apart. I often lose pages. So some of these will be less detailed because I have a bad memory. Oh, depends who you talk to, but every house is ruled by a planet and is similar to a sign, but not ruled by a sign. And just because it's ruled by a planet and similar to a sign doesn't mean it has the exact same characteristics as the planets in the signs that are similar to or rule it. So the first house is ruled by Mars, because both are kind of about the ego, and it's similar to Aries. I wouldn't like apply that too stiffly. I'd say the 12th house translates pretty more similarly to Neptune, and the second house to Venus, the third house to Mercury, the fourth house to the Moon, the sixth house to Mercury, the eighth house to Pluto, the ninth house to Jupiter. Yeah, those are the ones that like translate pretty stiffly. There's some different things about them that differ from the planet it rules, or that rules it, like everything, like all of the houses, but they translate pretty stiffly, but not with the first house. The first house is angular. Every house has like an opposite house. Signs have opposite signs too, but I think I'll make a separate video for basics not related to the houses. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so they're kind of like two sides of the same coin-ish, especially with sister signs. So the sign opposite of the seventh house, the sign opposite of the first house is the seventh house, which is why the seventh house is about open enemies, because it openly opposes the first house, which is the house of self. Fun fact. I love houses, if you can't tell. What else should I say? Yeah, it's like focusing. Actually, I'll do a separate video for opposite houses, but yeah, that's cool. What else should I say? I'll look in my notebook. Oh, the rising sign obviously influences how we act. If it's about how we are, I'll explain it. The first house, I mean, you don't see it much in natal. It doesn't really translate that much to natal, but you know, kind of like this is how Capricorn rising is all about being hesitant, because it's about how you feel about starting things, you know. You'll see that more. And yeah, you grow into the sun sign from the moon and rising signs. So yeah, that's really it. So I don't know why my front facing camera is like that, but PSA, this video is going to be kind of short compared to most astrology videos because I feel like in the videos they're just repeating themselves, like the same thing for like a minute straight, or like the same concept, they just keep explaining it like differently, but it's the same thing. My definitely slow it down, but yeah, I'm just gonna get to the point because I hate not doing that. Yeah, and sorry about my teeth. I don't know why I'm showing you, but they're very crooked because I cannot find my retainers. And even if I were to go get another set right now, they mold it to how your teeth are at the moment. My teeth will be stuck looking like this, and I don't want that. So I'm just hoping that I find my retainers. If not, then my teeth will probably be even more crooked in the next video. And I'm aware that I have a bit of a lazy eye. I hope you are not staring at it because I keep telling my eye doctor and he keeps not believing me. But I clearly have a bit of a lazy eye. Do not look at it. I'll start with the Aries rising because it's the first rising in the zodiac. I don't even know where to start. I'll start with the birth. The birth for most Aries rising natives, I mean, if you have Saturn in the first, you know, that's kind of contradictory. But for Aries rising, why am I like wanting to chillax? I'll move this so you're not distracted. The first house for, I mean, the birth is often quick. Even if like the full thing as a whole isn't quick, then it could just be like the pushing that's really quick maybe. If the labor is quick, then it kind of shortens the time of the whole birth. So I won't say it could just be the labor that's quick. Because of this, in life, they have a, like, I keep seeing this phrase, like, get in and get on with it perspective. They can be impatient and they like to get things done quickly. You see this with Mars in the first, so I'm assuming it translates over, but they are proud of how efficient they are at things because they get things done quickly, but it's also, well, because Mars rules Aries and Mars is about drive. So they're not lazy, Mars in the first and Aries rising natives. So they have strong bodies, Aries rising natives, and Mars in the first. They're impatient, obviously, but they also are rash. They don't want to sit there and think. They're not like Libra. They're not weighing the pros and cons. They just want to get through it. This also makes them blunt and straightforward about things. Physically, since Mars rules the ego, or Aries, both, typically Aries risings have big heads physically. Bruh. Or they could like neck up accessories like necklaces, earrings, nose piercing, all of that. Since Aries rules the head, they could also get headaches or suffer from migraines. I'll check my notebook if I don't have the page gone. Oh, they could also have sinus problems and be youthful. Mars is masculine, so Aries risings are often competitive. Yeah. They could have broad shoulders, and because of their rashness, they could have a hard time finishing projects unless Mars is in Scorpio. Aries is about independence. So Aries rising natives could have been labeled as independent by their parents. And so in their childhood, they could have not received a lot of help. But in general, they like independence now. And they can come off as bossy because of their authoritative nature. They want to be seen as courageous and bold. But the 7th house is connected to the 1st house. It shows who you are deep down despite your rising is always the opposite sign of your first house, and the opposite sign of Aries is Libra. So deep down, they are less bold than they seem, and they probably just want to be liked by others more than they seem to. They come off as intimidating, and they could be bald or have a ton of hair. There's something about the head with Aries rising and Mars in the first natives, like scars, pimples, rashes, lots of hair, no hair. Like there's something about the head, usually big head, you know. And then, yeah, that's really it. It really takes less time to say these things than it does to type them out. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. So yeah, next is Taurus risings, which Taurus placements are just lovely. I mean, I wouldn't say I have a bias against any of the signs, but having a Taurus placement just seems great. Like, what are the cons? I mean, the birth for them was likely easy, but because of that, they hate feeling uncomfortable. They hate discomfort. But like, I don't know. This can make them indulgent because of their love of physical pleasures, which could make them lazy if it's uncomfortable, they don't want to do it, and that's where the lazy stereotype comes from. But they can also be really hardworking. They like structure and stability. They're stubborn, and they can be materialistic. And they're also hesitant. They're like literally Aries if it was an earth sign, I feel like. Like, they're slow to warm up, but then after they proceed in a steady fashion, I think is the wording I keep seeing. Taurus risings have big brown eyes. They're ruled by Venus. They're often very beautiful. They often also have a curvy body. No, this isn't a substitute for the word fat. Although obviously I'm not like fat phobic. I'm just saying I'm not calling you fat. But they could have curvy bodies, and this could just mean that their waist is really small and compared to their hips. They could come off as simple but also cold because of their hesitance. They have to make sure that a situation is okay before they go into it. But they're actually more complicated than they seem deep down, because on the cusp of their 7th house is Scorpio, which is the opposite sign or the sister sign of Taurus. I'm not explaining that again. If you did not watch the Aries rising section, that's on you for not knowing the 7th house is always the opposite sign of the 1st house. That's on you. But I'm not going to say that 12 times. Okay. Wait, now I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so they're just more like complicated and private than they seem deep down. There's a lot more to the 7th house than that. The 7th house is so interesting. But anyways, I digress. But let me check my notebook because I really don't know what else I should be saying. Oh, I have lost my Taurus rising page. So yeah, let me think though.
Child. Anyway, so.
Oh yeah, they can be pretty nurturing, you know, and affectionate. That's all I'm gonna say because I'm not remembering anything else. So, anyways, Gemini risings. Mercury is a fast-moving planet, so wherever Mercury is, it could bring quickness. So their births could have been pretty quick too. I feel like Gemini risings have a small face, like a small like oval or round face. Yeah, I won't get too extra with that. Really, like the signs on the cusp of the house will always be less detailed than the planets in the houses. So I'm not gonna do too much with that. But yeah, quick birth. And as a result, it's not like impatience with Aries risings. They're just ruled by Mercury. So they're easily bored. They need a lot of mental stimulation. This is why a lot of Geminis are extroverts, or at least come off that way, because one way to get mental stimulation is through socializing. So they love mental stimulation. So because of that, they also like to learn. They're very detail oriented, so they know like random facts. What else? They're humorous, because Mercury is Hermes, like the prankster. So they're very humorous and sociable and chatty, because Gemini is an Aries sign. Gemini risings are often attractive. They're articulate too, because Mercury rules over communication. They likely talk a lot. Appearance wise, I always read that they're like medium built, like average height, average weight. But I feel like every Gemini rising I know is petite. Or not Gemini rising, but I just feel like Geminis in general are petite. And when I apply that to the rising, it always resonates. Like I feel like they're like shorter-ish. I wouldn't say like 4'6", but they're like not 5'5" either. And like petite, this is often because Gemini risings are again ruled by Mercury, which rules health. So they're focused on their health, and they're critical of their body and their weight. And because of their need for constant mental stimulation, they could have a hard time following things through, and are always like dropping projects. And I feel like having a lot of hobbies will do them good. Also, Sagittarius will be on the cusp of Gemini rising's 7th house, so they're more broad than they seem to be. They could be restless and fidgety, but also anxious, because Mercurial signs are anxious people. They're very aware of their surroundings, because it's how you view the world, and they view it through like an analytical lens. I don't know if that's a word. So they're always analyzing their surroundings. Yeah, but not in a hesitant way. It's not like Scorpio. Or did I lose the Gemini rising page? I do not have the Gemini rising page. I don't know what I was doing there at all, but I love that egg, because what was that noise? Like, was that my throat? I'm a very disorganized person, which is something that Geminis could be. They could be disorganized themselves. Fun fact. So next is Cancer risings. Cancers, they don't like new things either. Taurus doesn't like change. Cancer, why did I say that like with disgust? Cancers don't like change either. The birth to them could have been like too harsh. I was reading a description by Howard Sasportas, I think it's pronounced, and it's like, it was talking about like, imagine the baby being in the womb all nice and warm and protected, never having had a rag touch their skin, or seeing the light, or anything, seeing the light like they're dying, sorry. But and then they come out, and suddenly they're being wiped harshly, and the light is in their face, and there's so much noise that they haven't heard that loud before. That's them. Like, they're sensitive. They have an emotional view on things, and therefore very emotional reactions. Cancer risings also come off as moody, and they may be. They could come off as vulnerable, and this could cause people to try to manipulate them. Yeah. They like healing people. They're very compassionate and nice people and friendly. But they could, this could make them attract people who are very troubled. Cancer placements can do that, attract that. Cancer risings often are pale and have dark hair and dark eyes. If they have moon in the first, that makes them even paler. Cancer is ruled by the moon, which rules the mother, or the more feminine and nurturing parent. And so there's a focus on the mother, which often manifests as them trying to live up to the mother or more moon parents' expectations. Like, they're sensitive people, so it makes sense that they're sensitive to criticism. Despite being emotional and wearing their heart on their sleeve, they are scared of being hurt, kind of like their sister sign Capricorn. With Capricorns, they come off as cold and hesitant, but with Cancer risings, they just don't. They could be hesitant to let people in all the way. Let me see if I have the Cancer rising page. I have like 6 signs. Would you look at that? I don't have the Cancer rising page. Yeah, I'm not thinking of anything else. Leo risings. I imagine that during their birth, either it was like dramatic and the mother was being extra, or there was just a lot of like focus on the baby, like a lot. And because of this, I mean, first of all, they naturally attract attention. It's not like with Leo suns where like people want to pay attention to them, but they also do a lot of things, extra things to get attention. Or with Leo moons where they don't admit they like attention, but they like crave it. This is like they want attention, they need attention on them, but they also naturally attract them. Attention loves them. But if they don't get attention, they could be prone to having tantrums. Like, I don't know, if you've been watching the other signs, I'm like trying not to say anything negative about any of the rising signs, but what is that? Anyways, but yeah, that is who they are. They have a youthful aura about them, and this could make them be childish at times, but they're also very passionate and creative. They are aware, like when it comes to their surroundings, they're aware of the status of the people around them, and so they could be prejudiced against people of lower status, but they are very generous and they're like the ultimate hype people. They love to bring, I don't know, to make people feel good about themselves, and they bring enthusiasm to new projects. They like new projects. Fire signs are pretty optimistic about new projects. They like them. And they bring enthusiasm to the group even when they feel that all hope is lost. And just their like positive energy really has a good effect on the people around them. It's my Leo bias like showing. But yeah. What else? They could be dramatic themselves. They have, what's this? Oh, they have Aquarius on the cusp of the 7th house. So they do things for others without personal gain more often than they seem to. And yay. And oh, I have the Leo rising page. I have not for the other rising signs. Oh, they like luxury. And they often have nice hair. Apparently they like shiny things. That seems like a Cancer rising thing, or like a Cancer on the cusp of the 2nd house thing. They're also friendly, but also spontaneous, as fire signs can be. They could be prone to being selfish, but they could also have a big ego. All fire signs are pretty confident, but yeah, that's the plus side, they're confident. They're very self-expressionist, but they could be, because Leos need external validation. That's like where the attention-seeking stereotype comes from. But yeah, even if they're proud of themselves and they're very prideful people, they need like other people to be proud of them too. They could be stubborn, but they're also self-aware. Fire signs make rash decisions, but they often have Virgo on the cusp of the 2nd house and therefore are very organized with their money. Yeah, so moving on to Virgo. Moving on to Virgo rising. I don't freaking know about their births. I'm assuming quick, but like someone's health was compromised, or just someone was really anxious, like the mother or something. And so that's probably the case for Virgo rising's births. Because of this, they're anxious people. And yeah, they tend to be very anxious. I would say even more so than Gemini, because they're having like physical symptoms too. And often, especially with Virgo moons, it makes their stomach very sensitive and they could have a lot of stomach aches. But with Virgo risings have gastrointestinal issues too because of their anxiety. They're likely very self-critical, but also hard workers. They're also probably critical of their bodies and very health conscious. They're likely so hard on themselves because their parents labeled them as the organized, hardworking ones. And so now they constantly put that on themselves because that's how they're raised to be. They're put in situations that brought that out of them. But they have a critical view on life and others. But I love Virgo humor. I think they're very funny. So they're ruled by Mercury. Mercury like rules humor or is like associated with it. So wouldn't that make Virgo placements funny? But anyways, Virgo risings, they have Pisces on the cusp of the 7th house, and so they're more sensitive deep down than they seem to be. They're often shy because like it's like the anxiety of the Mercury rulership, and then the hesitance of just being an earth sign because they are an earth sign. It just makes them very shy because they need to analyze the situation, make sure it's okay, and they're like super hesitant, which could also make them come off as cold. Virgo risings often have a neat and clean aura look. Think Emma Watson. I never go off of like birth times, or like I never do house placements for celebrities because we never have their birth time. Like we have like Marilyn Monroe's, but yeah, it's usually dead people whose birth times we have. So I don't really listen to rising signs, but Emma Watson is like the perfect Virgo rising example. If she, like, I don't even know if she really is a Virgo rising, but she just has that like clean, neat look about her. That's what lots of Virgo risings have. Emma Watson is pale, but Virgo risings, they often are like exotic. I really don't know why, but they will have tan skin. A lot of Virgo risings are some kind of ethnic, like they're black or like Hispanic. They'll have dark hair and dark eyes too. Virgo risings are good with math, science, and numbers. Usually they're very articulate. They're good with systems too. Yeah. They like to help others, and this could be, I don't know, they could focus too much on helping others at times. Yeah, that's all I'll say. But I don't have my Virgo rising notebook, or oh my gosh, I don't have my Virgo rising page in my notebook. So yeah, that will be all. Moving on to Libra rising. Libra risings, I assume that their births were easy too, and so therefore they want life to be easy, but more in a balanced way, like not like perfect but not imperfect. The most stereotypical thing about them is that they could be codependent, and they really focus on relationships. Anyways, with Libra risings, their main focus may be relationships, and they like balance. They want balance in relationships, but their relationships often have a lot of imbalance. They're very beautiful, and they are an appreciator of physical beauty, but they're charismatic and charming, so they get away with this. But they're like Virgos in the sense that they're very critical because they're constantly weighing the pros and cons of everything. Libra risings, they have very charismatic smiles, but if you can't tell Libra risings, they often have some kind of smile on their face. They are an air sign. People forget this. So they are pretty intelligent themselves. They're just like the only air sign that doesn't care too much about showing off their intelligence. So yeah, they're also very sociable, and to strangers, they could come off as outgoing. They could be outgoing depending on the rest of their chart, but let me check my notebook now, as the page was right on top. But yeah, they're likable and they hate conflict. They're attractive and very persuasive. They're good mediators, and they could be bossy though, but they are creative because Venus is their chart ruler, and they're ruled by Venus. They have a hard time being by themselves, like at all. And they could be into artistic things. moving on to Scorpio risings. For Scorpio risings, their births are often very, like, I have a theory that first of all, the birth could have been very bonding for baby and mother. The birth was often very bonding for baby and mother, that's my theory, but also very traumatic. So the umbilical cord could have been wrapped around their neck when they were born. Mom could have lost a lot of blood. They could have not been breathing. Something about it was traumatic, and so they attract traumatic situations throughout their life, which is unfortunate. This all makes them very paranoid. They're very scared of getting hurt, and so they're on the defense always. They like power, and so this is all probably why Scorpio risings really do not like to reveal a lot about themselves. Deep down, they're more simple than they seem to be because they have Taurus on the cusp of the 7th house. They do have complicated lives. A lot of Scorpio risings that are young, I was gonna say are alive right now, but they often have Pluto in the first, which adds to the trauma of being a Scorpio rising. They are investigative. They like to look below the surface and read between the lines. They also hate being lied to. They are possessive. They are very intense. They feel things very deeply. But they're loyal too. They're also charismatic. They too have strong bodies, but their bodies are also flexible because Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars. So, but their skin could be oily. Modernly, they're ruled by Pluto. I don't know if I have my, they come off as powerful. They're very determined. They also have a need for control, but they're smart too, and they're good with strategy. They don't have patience either. They're traditionally ruled by Mars. They could come off as cold, and the traumatic situations that they go through their lives transform them a lot. And similar to Mercury in the first, when they're assessing anything, their eyes will squint. They have a big temper, and behaviors with them are often hidden. They're good at hiding, like drug abuse, self-harm. Like, it's like negative behaviors that they're really good at hiding. Scorpio risings often wear dark colors. Scorpio risings also have a pessimistic view on life. Their gaze is often intimidating and competitive on its own, but when they look at you, it's similar to Neptune in the first, where it's like they're looking into you, or like, well, with Neptune in the first, it's more like they're looking past your head. With Scorpio risings, it's like they're looking into you, which is neat. I love Sag risings. On to Sag risings. Who doesn't love Sagittariuses? If you don't love them, your opinion is invalid. They probably had a lot of luck in their birth. It could have been easy, no traumatic experiences. And so because of this, they have a lot of luck in life. They have an optimistic view of life, but this could also make them feel not like invincible, but they're very rash too, being a fire sign, and they could go too far, and luck is often on their side, but they should still be wary. They love philosophy and to talk about philosophy. They're very funny and humorous. They love to laugh. They could have problems with balding, unfortunately, but they could also, I know Jupiter first go through rapid weight changes, so this could apply. They could be tall. They could have long limbs, like legs and fingers. They love travel, and if they can't, they should try reading, because then their mind is like traveling. They are not very detail oriented, so they're not like Gemini risings. They have a hard time focusing on details. Deep down, they're more detail oriented than they seem, but not on the surface. They come off as outgoing. They can be, but if their chart doesn't point to being outgoing, then that might just be like a surface aura. Let me check my notebook. Oh, they dive into new things like Aries rising. Aries rising dives into new things. Leo risings are optimistic about new things. Scorpio risings are scared of new things. Yeah, but Sag risings are, they think new opportunities will go well, and therefore they do, and they attract a lot of new opportunities. Sag risings are often attractive too. Sag risings have round faces and nice noses specifically. They could be spiritual, but they could also try to fix things that aren't broken. That's the exact quote. Moving on to Capricorn risings. Capricorn risings, their birth was often very slow, and because of this, they're hesitant in life. There could have been a fear-based factor too. I actually wouldn't say it's as intense as like the Scorpio rising, where it's like they literally can't breathe or anything, but there still could have been something that inspired fear in the birth, and so therefore they have a very pessimistic view on life. But yeah, they're hard on themselves too. They fear that they're not doing enough, and that they're gonna fail. Their parents often labeled them as the responsible ones, and so a lot of responsibility was put on them, and so now they are responsible because they learned to be. They could come off as cold, but deep down they're more nurturing and sensitive than they seem because they have Cancer on the cusp of their 7th house. Capricorn risings, they can be blunt, but they're hard workers. Capricorn risings often wear like plain colors like white, beige, gray, black. I wouldn't say anything else. Like that's often a huge part of their wardrobe. They have like a very professional aura. Oh, they're very serious, and that's the best thing about their humor. It's often dry and sarcastic, and they don't like laugh halfway through the joke, or like smile. They're able to deliver it in a deadpan manner. Sag risings, they obviously are going to be laughing before the joke is over. Same with Gemini risings, but Capricorn risings, their humor is very deadpan. They want to come off as successful, and they could be traditional or have a strong sense of family. They could restrict themselves a lot, like not treat themselves, except for when it comes to status symbols such as like clothes. They're the type to want to flex their Gucci or their, I don't even know what bag. I don't freaking know. Just like they just want status symbols. They want a nice sports car or something, like a nice car. They want the big house, but when it comes to anything else, they're not going to splurge. Oh, they often loosen up as they age. I mean, a Capricorn sun might dampen that, but they often become less serious as they age. They care a lot about reputation too. So moving on to Aquarius risings, their birth could have been shocking or sudden. This feels like when people like don't know they're pregnant and they go to the hospital with like stomach cramps or like a backache, and then suddenly they leave with a baby, or they could have been premature, or they just couldn't, like, I don't know, they could have been at the store not really expecting to go into labor, the mother, and so something about it is shocking. And so because of this, they're eccentric. They could have like something that's not symmetric about their appearance. This is especially true with Uranus in the first. I'm literally gonna start saying Uranus, so no one can say your anus when I say Uranus. But yeah, they could have something else quirky about their appearance. They could dye their hair a lot or have a lot of piercings. But they're just eccentric beings. They could come off as detached and possibly alienating to the people around them, but they're humanitarian, and they could come off as aloof, but they have Leo on the cusp of their 7th house. They're more passionate than they seem deep down. What else? They could be very self-critical and deprecating, but they're very sociable. They come off as sociable, at least. Depends on the rest of their chart. They often have a hard time seeing things through. Pisces risings. There's an implication of a lack of control for the baby during the birth. It's like forced upon them. They didn't want it. Like Pisces and Neptune in the first don't like reality. So yeah. I'd say this is more often true with Neptune in the first, but their mom could have been like asleep during the birth, not because she was like, I'm gonna take a nap, meanwhile I'm having contractions. I'm not even gonna be awake for the birth of my child.
On the day of my actual birth, both of my parents failed to show up.
No, it's like they were doped up. So they were knocked out for some reason, like a C-section, or it was an emergency. This could point to them being like premature. They, or something. So yeah, they also have a sleepy nature because of this, and like sleepy, droopy eyes. They're also sensitive, but they're also compassionate. They could come off as very emotional, but they're more like cold deep down than they seem. Also more organized deep down than they seem, because they have Virgo on the cusp of the 7th house, but they definitely come off as directionless and confused. But they're charismatic too. They wear rose-colored glasses a lot, especially if the mom was asleep during birth, because that passes on to the baby. So the baby was asleep during birth, and the baby didn't even meet reality when they were born. This is also why they're intuitive, because they were open to outside forces. So yeah, especially in the childhood, they could have spent a lot of time daydreaming, or trying to escape reality through characters, like in books and stuff. I'm gonna check my notebook. You could go with the flow and you come off as artistic. You're impressionable. And you could change your mind often. Because of the Virgo on the cusp of the 7th house, you likely really prefer or value stability in relationships despite your chaotic aura. You could easily get addicted to things, and you could have feet problems, because Pisces rules over feet. You could have a mysterious aura too, along with Scorpio risings. You could have a lot of allergies, and you could hate like cold hard facts. Okay, so that's it. I really am not a fan of long intros or outros. I really think neither should exist, honestly, but that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope you are not confused, because every part of astrology kind of works as a system. So yeah, but thanks for watching.
What?